Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Brad Lone Wolf, and this is a quick follow-up video on the Airsoft video I did last week. Um, I was basically advised to edit the video to show the various different Resident Evil guns. As some of you know, I'm absolutely crap at editing, so I've decided to do another video like this and try and put in some thumbnails of the characters using the various guns. So starting with the original Resident Evil, I'm going to look at that, which is obviously the Samurai Edge. Stars in Resident Evil Remake, Resident Evil 3, technically Resident Evil 5 as well, but I'm not entirely sure whether it is there. So yeah, I'll put a picture or a little video in basically showing the Samurai Edge either in Jill's hand or Chris's hands, probably Jill's to be fair. Okay, so that's the Samurai Edge, and I'll be back in a second. So this is the Colt Python 4-inch. This is the Colt Python that you pick up in the original Resident Evil. The Magnum revolver that you pick up in the remake is technically a Colt Python, but obviously they call it Silver Serpent for copyright reasons. The main difference between the one that you see here and the one that you get in the remake is the remake one is a 6-inch barrel. This is the 4-inch barrel. And again, I will try and put a thumbnail in showing either Jill or Chris using the Python during the original Resident Evil campaign, the original game. Like I say, the remake they used the 6-inch version, and it's a slightly different model anyway. Okay, next up is the 6-inch Python, which is the gun that Barry has. It's exclusive to Barry in the original Resident Evil. In the remake, this is the Magnum that you pick up. Again, they call it the Silver Serpent. The main difference between the two revolvers in the original and the remake is the remake has a big chunk of metal down here, which you could argue is a counterweight to help shooting, and also it doesn't have the cutouts here. Not entirely sure what that was for. Probably to make it distinctive enough from the Colt Python that Colt wouldn't sue for likeness. Getting into speculation there though. In the remake, Barry carries the Colt Anaconda, or a version of the Colt Anaconda. The main difference being is Colt Python fires the 357 rounds, the Colt Anaconda fires the 44 Magnum. There are differences in the real steel. In Airsoft, doesn't really make a difference. That is just in Airsoft though. Okie dokie. Okay, so the shotgun that you get in the original Resident Evil is this one. It's the Remington 870. And I'm not going to go into too much details about it. Obviously the main difference is this one is black and made out of plastic, whereas the one in Resident Evil is steel, and this, the pump and the stock are made out of wood. Now I could get these repainted to look more authentic, but to be honest, I'm not really that bothered. It's the same model and that's good enough for me basically. Unlike the 6-inch Python here, which I intend to use for cosplay, which does need to look a bit more authentic. I will be swapping that out to look a bit more like the Silver Serpent in due course. So as I say, that is the shotgun that you pick up in the original campaign, or the first shotgun that you get in the original. In the remake, the other shotgun that you get in the remake is the M4 Benelli, or a copy of the M4 Benelli, which is ironically the shotgun that you also get in Resident Evil 3 remake once you've upgraded everything. Speaking of Resident Evil 3, this is the handgun that you get after you drop Nemesis a couple of times and pick up the crates from him. This is a model of the STI Eagle. Again, the main difference being this one doesn't have a purple grip or a purple trigger guard. But apart from that, yeah, it's the special handgun that you get if you drop Nemesis enough times. As I said in the previous video, the main difference with this one is it's a split slide, which just makes it a bit more gas efficient in terms of airsoft. That's really all I can say on that one. Moving on. Okay, moving on. Just move those out of the way. This is the Benelli M3. This is the shorty version. So short barrel and short tube where you put your shells in. The shotgun that you get, or the version that you get in Resident Evil 3, the original Resident Evil 3, if I put my hand there, it doesn't have a stock, obviously, and it has a fair longer tube and another stock, a longer shell tube as well. As I said in the previous video, and I will show it here, stock's got very damaged now, and to be honest, I don't know how much longer I'll be keeping this one, just because of the damage. I can't keep on using it. It will eventually break on me. So, as for the other guns out there that are both used in Resident Evil and are available in Airsoft, going through the games, and I'll try and put pictures of them as I mention them, if they're either in characters' hands or not. So Resident Evil 2, Leon's campaign. Actually, I've forgotten to mention that one. Back in a sec. Call me an idiot in the comments as much as you want. Yes, I did forget this one. This is the VP-70. This is Leon's handgun from Resident Evil 2. This is the one he starts off with, both in terms of the original and the remake. The original gets it closer to what the actual thing looks, not necessarily looks like, but functions. This is also known as the Matilda. Why the Matilda, I don't know, but they call it the Matilda. So yeah, again, I'll try and put a picture of Leon actually holding this. In terms of the real steel, it doesn't have an extended mag because it doesn't need one. The real steel actually holds 18 rounds, and it doesn't need it, or it doesn't have a muzzle brake. It probably could do with one, but it doesn't actually have a muzzle brake in the real world. I haven't put the stock on here because the other video you could see the stock and the difference it made. Right, gonna pause the video there and I'll come back, and I'll talk about the other guns that are available in Airsoft that that are in the games. Okay, so the other guns available, or the other guns from the other Resident Evil games that are available-ish, or at one point were available in Airsoft, starting with Resident Evil 2 Leon's campaign. Um, the shotgun, the Remington M1100, you can get them. They are very rare and they are very, very expensive. Um, the last time I saw one for sale, it was nearly £400. But it was semi-automatic, so you loaded it like the real thing. It held 6 or 7 rounds, pulled the trigger, and the shell actually ejected. Um, whether you can get hold of it or not is a different matter. Again, I'm going to be trying to put pictures in of either the real steel or the character holding that particular weapon. The Magnum that Leon gets, which is the Desert Eagle, that exists. There's quite a few companies that make copies of the Desert Eagle. The only company that I know of that make the 10-inch Desert Eagle, the big custom Magnum, at the end of Resident Evil 2, is Tokyo Marui. They don't charge an awful amount for it. It's actually quite reasonable for Tokyo Marui, which is surprising. But it exists. I do want to get hold of one of them when funds permit. Just basically because it's a ridiculous looking thing. I mean, if you imagine this, but with another 6 inches of barrel. Yeah. So that's why I want to get hold of that. Claire's weapons. The Browning pistol that she uses does exist. You can get the Mark 1 quite easily, but the Mark 3 is as rare as rocking horse shit. It exists, I've seen it, but like I say, getting hold of it is very, very difficult. The M79 grenade launcher she uses, that exists, but the ones that you can get, they've got the full stock, not just a pistol grip. And to be honest, if you manage to get hold of one of them, you won't want to cut down the stock, because you're talking nearly £300 worth of model. Which isn't too bad, because in the remake, she does have the full stock. Just saying. Obviously, the Spark Shot is a made-uppy weapon. Doesn't really exist in terms of what you're thinking. So, yeah. That's Resident Evil 2. Moving on to Resident Evil 3. Obviously, Samurai Edge exists. The Benelli M3. The Magnum. Marusian make the Magnum. The 629. With their X cartridges, which is similar to the Pythons I've got, where they actually load individual shells. Not hard to get hold of, not easy to get hold of. And then, I think, so you've got the Samurai Edge, the shotgun, the Magnum. Obviously the mine thrower thing, that's a made-uppy weapon. The rocket launcher you can get if you go down a certain path, that exists in the real steel. If you want one, if you want an airsoft one, you actually have to make it yourself. And obviously the railgun is made-uppy. I'm going to say made-uppy as well. Okay. Moving on to Resident Evil 4, and this will be the last one in terms of that genre, and then I'll move on to the 2 remakes that I haven't discussed. In terms of Resident Evil 4, and I'll probably miss a couple of them out, so I do apologise. Leon's handgun, his starting handgun, that's maybe uppy. It's looks like kind of a cross between the 1911 and something else that I can't remember. The Red 9, that is, yeah, that exists. That's the C96. The closest you get in Airsoft is a copy of the 712, which is the only difference between them is, rather than loading the bullets in from the top, it's actually a proper detachable box magazine, and auto fire, if you're lucky enough to get that one. The Blacktail, it looks like a cross between an M&P and a Glock. I'm going to go more on the M&P side. It's available in Airsoft. Not quite that version though. Glocks are Glocks. They have been available in Airsoft for years. Carrying on down the list, the Punisher. The Punisher exists. It's actually the FN57 pistol. You might remember the 5.7 when I did shooting from the previous video. Fires the same cartridge in real steel, which probably explains why when you fully upgrade it, it can go through five enemies. Just saying. Moving on to the shotgun. The basic shotgun is again a Remington 870, which, as you've seen, already exists in Airsoft. The next one down is, or the riot shotgun, I'm pretty sure that's an M4. Benelli M4, I could be wrong though. The next one, the Striker, that exists. You won't find it in Airsoft, and to get hold of one is, even in real steel, is almost impossible. Not impossible, but almost impossible. It's known as, well, there's two names for it. There's the Street Sweeper and the Protector, and the Protector is with a K rather than a C. South African design, and that's really all I can say about it. It exists, but you'll never see it in the Airsoft world, unless you're very, very, very lucky, and Marui decide to try and do something with it. I don't know if they will or not. So yeah, there's that. The two Magnums. Interesting. The Killer 7 is essentially that, a Colt 1911 with the sight stuck on the top. Which it's available in Airsoft, just without the laser on top, as you can see. The Broken Butterfly, made-uppy, but kind of made-uppy from two real-world weapons. The grip itself is, or it looks like it's from a Colt SAA, Colt Peacemaker. But the break open, the top, there's only, in fact no, there's more than two, but there's two that I know of that had break actions like that. There's the Schofield Model 3, which is what we think the Broken Butterfly's action's based on, and then there's the Webley. The Webley revolvers all break action like that. It's more likely to be based on Schofield though. The two rifles that Leon uses. One is the Springfield 1903 with the scope on it. That exists in Airsoft. Very, very expensive though. And the semi-automatic rifle is the Heckler & Koch SL8, which is available in Airsoft. Expensive, not as expensive as the Skyfield. I think that just about covers it. Going back to the remakes, the Resident Evil 2 remake, Claire's Revolver, that exists. I think it's the M49 Hammerless. Pretty sure it's the M49 Hammerless. And then obviously she gets her Browning halfway through, or not even halfway through, quarter of the way through. Discussed that already exists. The M79 grenade launcher exists. The Spark Shot is again a maybe uppy weapon. Minigun, yeah, that exists in Airsoft, believe it or not. I'm not going to get one because I'm not willing of spending £1,500 getting one. Fun as it would be. Oh yes, a lot of fun. Leon's guns, yeah, we've already discussed the VP70. His shotgun, once you've fully upgraded it, is Remington 870. It's almost like Capcom can't get away from their Remington 870 for some reason. And then the Lightning Hawk, Marui, Tokyo Marui actually make a replica of that, and again, you're talking about £500 worth of pistol there. So I'd rather just stick to the original Desert Eagle. Resident Evil 3 remake, the Glock 19 does exist in Airsoft. You can get the extended magazine as well. Not sure about suppressor, interestingly. Not sure about suppressor, but you can definitely get the extended magazine for the Glock 19. Her shotgun, we've already discussed, that's the M3. When it's fully upgraded, but except for the shells at the end, is the M4. Desert Eagle again, or the Lightning Hawk for her Magnum. Grenade launcher, yeah, that exists as well. That exists in the Real Steel and in the Airsoft. That is the M320, I think they call it. But that exists. And obviously the railguns made the uppy as well. Carlos's guns, the G18, the Glock 18, that exists. Well known for its burst capabilities as well. Like I say, I'll be trying to put pictures up either at the end of this or as I'm talking. But apart from that, thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you next time, and I will link a video to put a link to the video where you see me shooting all of these guns. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Bye for now.